What's up, fellas? This is Chris from Tap 8, and welcome to me yapping. I really wanted to get this out before the ban list actually drops this Monday. So this is unscripted, and I'm just gonna kind of go to town here with my thoughts about this announcement here. But Bandai has announced that they are going to be updating the banned and restricted list this Monday, and they've said that they want to hit cards from Manga Booster Cell and Manga Booster Kid Buu. Yippee hooray! We're all excited. This has been not only wanted but needed for a while now. These two decks have been the top dogs pretty much since the Manga Booster came out, with Buu even reaching back before then because of Evil Buu being really good as well before this. Then getting support and a new leader, arguably easier to use leader in the Manga Booster. Not arguably, undeniably. Frieza 4 cost every turn for absolutely free is just absolutely insane. Super powerful. So this is good. I really hope they make some big enough changes to bring these decks down to the power level that the rest of the game is at right now. I'd love to see it. I don't want to see decks die, except for maybe Buu. I strongly dislike the Buu decks. But in all seriousness, I don't want to see decks die. I want decks to still be playable. I just want them to be brought down to the level of everything else so that we can have a much more even and competitive game environment. So I'm going to yap about these leaders, about some of the cards I want to see hit, and about some of my fears if they hit these and don't do any preemptive hits to anything else. You can probably see in my tabs up here a little bit of spoilers for later what we're going to talk about. So we'll start with Buu, because I'm the least experienced with Buu and I don't have many things to say outside of just my problem cards with the deck. What I think they have that's very powerful. So if you don't know, we'll go ahead and go over the leader real quick. Buu, when attacking, draw a card, awaken at 4 life. Draw a card, flip him over. On the back side, Kid Buu, draw a card when attacking. Activate main if you have a battle card with a cost 4 or more in Majin and special trace in your battle area. Choose one rest mode card in your opponent's battle area, and it can't switch to active mode during your opponent's next turn. So I was actually incorrect a second ago. I talked it down. I'm sorry. Shouldn't have been so rude. It's actually a lot better than I was saying. You need to have a card with a cost of 4, and you freeze anything on your opponent's board. That's insane. That's wildly powerful. Freezing something for free every turn is very hard for pretty much every deck to deal with. Buu basically just gets to say you have one less card on your board at any given time. That's very strong. However, that alone is not what makes this deck strong. It has a bunch of other tools that play into that strategy and even give it some strengths it probably shouldn't have. We're going to start with this Majin Buu Evil from set 4. Active main, KO one of your battle cards, draw a card, and then if your opponent has 6 or more cards, they discard a card. This card is absolutely insane. Generating value for you every turn by just KOing one of your own cards, which, spoiler alert, Buu has a lot of cards that want to be KO'd anyway. To just draw another card every turn, wildly powerful. The 25 stat line is not irrelevant as well. Not only is it forcing a 10k out of your opponent's hand, it's hitting base 25k leaders as well. That's not extremely relevant, but it's also not irrelevant. Especially going into the future. Nobody knows what's going to be printed. Hitting base 25, always strong. the amount of things that this deck can do, I think that's its biggest issue, honestly. It's just that it doesn't have one thing it's strong at. It doesn't have anything it's weak at. It's just good at everything. It's good at controlling your board. It's good at building its own board. It's good at having defenses, and it's good at applying offensive pressure. It just kind of does everything. And not only does it just do everything, it does everything in archetype, which is probably the more egregious sin. Because if you remember, you needed to have a battle card with Majin in its special traits. Well, guess what? Pretty much every card we're going to discuss here has Majin in its special traits. Like the 4-drop kid, we're going to go out of this because this is not as helpful as I want it to be. Spoilers, this is everything we're talking about. This 4-drop kid, Kid Buu. This just straight up can't be KO'd by your opponent's skills. That's huge. Being unKO'able and just kind of being a threat that's constantly present is already something that's very hard to deal with. But in addition to that, it has on play and when KO'd. If your leader has Majin in special traits, which it does, you draw a card, then rest everything on your opponent's board, cost 5 or less, and all of that energy. This is an insanely powerful effect. And in combination with one of our other cards we'll be talking about later, the Bobbity, which can make this a blocker, this just kind of sits on board forever and just swings 30k into you. And even if you do manage to get rid of it somehow, it's going to rest everything on your board, almost guaranteed, with very few exceptions. Like green sometimes will get away with not having stuff rested because they have stuff that costs more than 5. But this is going to rest everything on your board. And it's going to draw Buu another card, which is a common theme here in these two decks that we're going to be talking about, is they just draw cards for no reason, for completely free. So this card, I've heard some people say that this is quote-unquote crucial to the identity of the deck. I vehemently disagree. I think this card is wildly overstated and does way too much. Same with pretty much every other card we're going to talk about. Next, we're going to talk about the Double Striker. I don't know why the stall color gets a in-archetype Double Striker that also plays another card out of your hand. So Buu not only gets to be the best stall deck, it also gets to be the best aggro deck with a Double Striker that board swarms. That not only board swarms, it board swarms extremely effectively, playing a 4 cost. So you play your Double Striker, and then you also drop this bad boy at the same time, or the one that draws you a card, or another one we'll talk about in a second that swings in twice, or this one that can play out this guy from the drop. It's absolutely insane that this just plays out another 4-drop. And the fact that he doesn't have combo doesn't matter, because you have 15 cards in your hand, and at least 10 of those cards that you have in your hand probably have combo. This is ludicrous. I don't think Buu needs this. This is going back to what I said a second ago about it. The deck just does too much. It's too good at everything. Let's find something for him to be good at and hone in on that instead of just making him good at everything. Next, we're going to talk about the buff Buu. The bane of everybody's existence. This is such a huge game closer. Buu's at 6 energy. He's ripping a bunch of cards out of your hand because he's going to swing 30k into you 4 times. And there's not a lot of decks that can survive that, much less get out of that with a decent hand size afterwards. So it does have a permanent that says it can't be switched to active mode during your charge phase, so when everything else will switch to active, this does not. However, to counteract that, it has an active main to KO one of your other battle cards, or just any battle card, technically KO itself. That would be pointless, because the effect is to restand itself. So when it comes down, it's going to swing for 30 twice, and even though it won't be doing that again, It will probably stick on board and continue to swing 30 if it didn't kill you. This is another one of those tools where Boo just, this is a huge aggressive tool for him that I just don't think he needed. Especially given that the leader does all of the control for free. Why are we also just giving him this massive aggressive swings? This card is ludicrous, and it's another card that I think is a huge issue. Next we'll talk about the Crit Boo from Manga Booster. This one by itself isn't hugely egregious. It doesn't do anything particularly difficult to handle for anybody. It's a 25 body that has crit for 3. That's not the worst stat line in the world, but it's not, completely unhinged. Where it starts to get completely unhinged is the when KO'd. You discard a card from your hand and you play a Majin Buu Kid with 4 or less from your drop. If you hadn't noticed, not only do you have many ways to enable this yourself, you also have a really good target for that right here. This comes out, rests everything on your opponent's board immediately, and all their energy. And since it's 4 or less, you can also get out this guy just because. So if they ran out, they're all on their drop because they KO'd them all, or you got rid of them finally. They play this guy, KO with something else. All of a sudden, they have another 30 swing on board. Like I said, this card by itself isn't particularly egregious. It's just that there are so many other things that the deck does already that this then just brings back after applying crit pressure. Boo just does it too much. All of these cards are absolutely insane. The last card I want to talk about for Boo is Bobbity. While this card, again, kind of like the previous Boo, by itself isn't particularly egregious, the main issue I have is the barrier keyword. This game has absolutely no way to interact with barrier, and until they do print something that interacts with barrier, we should just stop printing cards with barrier. I don't think that's healthy game mechanic to have cards that are completely uninteractable. The closest thing we have is Sin Shenron's Nova Burst. The 4-drop event that says when attacking, bottom right of the card you attacked is if your attacking cards are Shadow Dragon. That's great. Cool. It's finally a card that removes something that doesn't say choose. However, the big issue with that being you have to swing into whatever you want to remove. You can't swing into this. It will never be rested. You can't rest it, even if you were in yellow, because you can't choose it because of that barrier. We need to either handle this, because this giving Boo free blockers every turn can get a little bit out of hand, and this leads into Boo just does everything too well. He has all those great offensive cards. He slams one of these, and now he has unlimited defenses that you can't interact with, because the one giving him unlimited defenses has barrier. So we just need to print ways for us to deal with barrier. We need cards to interact with barrier. That's the big moral of the story on this one. I don't think that's too much to ask. I think that's a pretty simple solution that could be implemented really easily. They just need to do it. So yeah, that's my opinions on Boo. Overall, I don't think it's a very fun deck to play into. I haven't played it too much myself. I don't particularly want to, because I hate playing against it, and I don't want to do that to other people. It's gross. It does everything way too well, and it needs to be handled somehow. I'm not the person to say how. I don't play enough of it to know what would maintain the deck's presence without straight up killing it or leaving it too powerful. I just know all these cards are cards that I personally take issue with. So let's move on to something I do know a little bit about, which is Sell. So with Sell, we're going to start with one card we absolutely cannot remove, and that's the 4 cost. As powerful as it is literally the centerpiece of the deck. This card cannot go and still be a playable deck. Just figured I'd get that out of the way now. This card can't go. Now, I don't think this card is a super massive issue on its own. I think the biggest issue is the combination of all these cards and this line right here. Draw 1 card. I think way too many of Cell's cards say draw a card. That I think is the main issue with the deck, but baseline issue here, this card can't leave and still be a playable deck. This has to stick around no matter what. If they hit this, deck's unplayable. The biggest problem card in the whole deck, Self-Destruct. This card needs to go to 0. This card is way too powerful. For 1 energy, turn your leader on by KOing a card. You know what? Before we talk about this, let's go ahead and review the leader. We did that with Boo. We can do it with Cell. Front side, normal. When attacking, draw a card. Awaken to 4, draw a card, flip it over. Back side, you do not draw every attack. You have to fulfill a condition to draw with Cell. If a battle card with Android and special traits is removed by a skill during this turn, when attacking, draw a card, gain 20k. So you do swing for 40. However, your draw is attached to your plus 40 condition. So you have to remove a card from your battle. You have to remove an Android from your battle area with a skill to get your draw. But when you do, you also swing for 40. So his leader effect is, it's actually really strong. It doesn't read very strong, but as everybody who's had to play against it knows, 40 is a very hard number to escape from. So this usually connects, and Cell has plenty of ways to remove androids from his battle area, which leads directly into this card that we were just talking about, Self-Destruct. Activate main for 1 energy, KO a battle card with android and its special traits. If your leader is Android only, draw a card, then choose 1 battle card with 30k power in your opponent's battle area and KO it, 30k or less. This card is absolutely insane. It's way too much value for 1 energy. You are turning on your leader, you're drawing a card. There's that line we're talking about. All of Cell's cards do this way too often. You're drawing a card, and you're removing something from your opponent's board. 99% of the time, the thing you're removing is larger than 30k because this is a red deck and you will be minusing power from things. I think this card goes to 0. This is not, well, this is central to Cell's game plan, but it shouldn't be. It's way too good. This gives him some of the, if not the best removal in the game, in addition to all of the other grid pressure that he puts out. I think this can go to 0 quite easily and Cell still be perfectly playable. Next card we'll talk about is the Cell Jr. This is another problem card. This card is insanely powerful. If you have a Cell with 30k power in your battle area, original power of 30k or more in your battle area, you can play for free. On play, it minuses 5k from something in your opponent's board. This is extremely strong. It pairs really well with that Self-Destruct. You can take something from 35 down to 30, pay 1 energy, kill this, Self-Destruct, and kill the thing you just minused. And since you played this for free, you only spent 1 energy and you replaced the Self-Destruct in hand. Absolutely nuts. And not only that, it is a great pressure tool because it's already a 15k, so it's only a 5k to get to swing to 20, or with the instant transmission card that we'll talk about a little bit later, it can swing for 30 into life, and that is huge pressure to be putting out. Now, this is something that's a little bit more difficult to remove from the deck without taking away its identity and its playability. I think this should go to 2. I think this should be a much more limited tool for them to use, and they shouldn't have free access to 4 of them, especially with the recursion that you have available and all the draw. I think 2 of this is a good enough hit to it to keep it a little bit more in check. Next we'll talk about the main 5-drop cell, the 30k that you're going to be playing out with your cell chain. On play, add up to 1 card with a cost of 4 less and Android and special traits from your drop to your hand. This is just more card advantage that Cell just is getting for free. This line by itself would not be egregious if every other thing before it didn't also say draw a card. If everything before it didn't also say draw a card, I would have 0 issues with this. But the fact that this is still adding cards to your hand after drawing all the way up to it, insane. In addition to that, when KO'd, if your leader is an Android only, play an 18 with the cost of 2 or less from your drop. Notably, this is not played in rest mode, it plays it in active mode, so you can play your blocker 18 out in active mode. You can play out your cantrip 18 to draw a card and get some more combo power on the board. So the fact that it plays in active mode is not irrelevant. It's fairly important. In addition, it's also just another 10k in the deck. The deck has a large overabundance of 10k combos. It has almost no 5k combos and has so much combo power. That's another thing that makes Cell so powerful, is just he kind of just always has it. Right? He always has the combo power because almost all of his cards are 10ks. So those are the big problem cards in Cell. Oh, I think this can go down to 2. I think it's safe for this to go down to 2. We don't want to take it out completely, right? Because it's not super egregious. And since we've taken out Self-Destruct and move Cell Junior down to 2, we can move this down to 2 safely as well. This is a powerful card for sure, but it is not doing anything that I think is too insane. I just think having a lot of access to it is what makes it powerful. I think if we put this down to 2 and we have to think about it a little more about when we use it, what we're recurring with it, how we're going about it, then that brings this card down to a level that's more appropriate. And the reason I think this can go to 2 is because we do have another target for our cell chain, which is this cell from FBO 7. It's base 30, but it's 40k on your turn, so it's going to punch your opponent in the mouth for 40,000. That's not insignificant. That's a really big number to be swinging. As we know with the leader, that's very hard to get out of and is almost always going to connect. And as a bonus, it kills a 15k on play. This is a very strong card. It's very good. You can cell chain into it. It's absolutely playable. It's mostly kind of played at 2 right now just because the other cell is better. But if the other cell goes to 2, you bump this to 4 easy. And you just play the deck a little bit more aggro. So I think that's this is a very solid backup and a very good reason for the other cell to go down to 2, because we have another solid target for cell chain, and I don't think the deck becomes unplayably bad by losing all these tools. I think it is brought down to a level that's more in line with everything else. The last card we're talking about here, I think this SR cell, which is largely unplayed, is a very cool and fun card, and I think this is something we want the deck to play, right? It is kind of a use your whole turn to do it card, and that is kind of why it's not played, especially since it has no combo power. But if we take out all of these other pieces, I think this could find its way back in, possibly as maybe 1 or 2 copies. If you see it, you see it. If you don't, whatever. But this card is cool. It looks amazing, and I would just like to see it played more often. It's not weak by any means. It's active main, put an Android into your drop to minus 20k from 2 things. That is very powerful. The biggest issue with it is just that Cell can do so much more for so much less energy, which is the main reason this doesn't see play. But if we take out all these other tools, I think, or at least I hope, this could come back at 1 or 2. The card's really cool. The art looks fantastic. And I'd just love to see it more. So let's move on to some cards that might find their way into the deck list if all these things get removed. The Self-Awakening event. Active main, add a card from your light to your hand. If your leader is Android only, choose a battle card in your opponent's battle area and it gets minus 20k for the turn. This is pretty decent removal. It obviously doesn't even closely compete with self-destruct. Self-destruct is far better in literally every way. But this might make it in at 1 or 2. It shores up Cell's quote-unquote weakest point, his little soft spot of having a little bit of difficulty awakening. And minus 20 is nothing to scoff at for sure. So this might find its way back in. This is something I think could possibly even be played now, but he just kind of doesn't need it and doesn't have the room for it because all of his other cards are so good. But It's Over is actually a wildly powerful event card that will almost always swing a game directly back into your favor, especially in combination with like Cell Jr., which can, you know, bring a lot more things into that 25k range for you to just wipe your opponent's board clear and just absolutely snowball back into your favor. It's a really neat card. It's not Android type, so it's not searchable. That's probably another big reason why it's not played now, but with some other hits, this might find its way in at a copy or two, especially since, you know, your main goal of the deck is to play cards with 30,000 power. Dr. Flappy. It's fine. It's an okay card. Could find its way back in. It's mostly for pay 1 to pick up a 10k and then be a 10k on board. So it's pay 1 for 20k. If it lives defensively, that's nice. You're probably going to use it offensively though for an extra 10k. The biggest issue here is it's not searchable. Right, that's its biggest weak point. All right, moving on. Android 18 from, FPO6. 2 costs, 15k, 10k combo. Your turn, it's a 20k. Self-Awakener. Pretty self-explanatory. Fulfills your engine condition. It's an Android 18 name, so you can use it to Cell Chain. Shores up that soft spot of not being able to self-awaken very well, and, you know, puts on 20k pressure. Overall, solid. Not a whole lot to say here. I just think it barely misses out on a slot now, and with some cuts, you know, some hits, could make its way back in pretty easily. Last card we'll talk about is Instant Transmission. This sometimes sees play, sometimes doesn't. It's a very aggressive card because it's activate battle only on your turn. And funnily enough, if Cell Jr. gets hit, the best reason to run this card is being taken out. However, if you wanted to transition into a more aggressive strategy, this could be a very useful option as well. Because, you know, plus 15k for free. Basically being a pseudo super combo, but offensively, is very strong. It's very hard to get, you know, more than 10k combo at a time on your own turn, especially for no energy. This is extremely strong, and it couldn't find its way back in a more aggressive build once some of these other pieces get hit. And that's what I had to say about Cell. Overall, as far as the two main problem decks are concerned, I have a bias against Boo. I very much dislike playing against this, and I honestly don't mind if this deck dies. It's not fun to play into, and I don't really know how to reduce its power level without it either still being too strong or just killing it entirely. This one's beyond me, but I've said my piece on that. With Cell, I'm a little bit biased. I think Cell is a much cooler character, first of all, so I'm partial to him in that sense. And I also think he's a lot easier to bring in line. One of the biggest problems just being self-destruct. Just cut this to 0, ban it entirely. And that by itself brings power level of the deck down so much. And then a little bit of consistency hits here, making these two a little bit harder to access. And I think the deck is much more reasonable overall. So with those two talked about, let's talk about the next problem that could arise if they don't do any hits preemptively, and that is Yellow Vegeta. So front side is normal, draw an attack, flip it 4. Backside, draw an attack. At the end of your turn, switch 2 of your rest mode energy to active mode. Now, I don't know why they thought this would be a good idea again. They did this in Masters. It's still banned to this day. I went ahead and pulled it up. This leader even has a cost to its restand. You have to activate main and put one of your Frieza's army's battle cards into the drop to switch your energy to active mode. Now, given you do draw a card when you do this, and Masters is a very different game overall, and you can also use this energy during your own turn. However, most of the time that's not what this is being used for. This was being used to play out your turn and then restand your energy to go into your opponent's turn with energy, which is exactly what this Vegeta is doing, obviously, because his energy only restands at the end of the turn. Point being, they've done this before. That leader is still banned to this day, and I don't know why they thought this would be a good idea again. It is objectively less powerful than it would be in Masters because Fusion World doesn't have negates. However, that somehow makes it worse, I think, because this deck just becomes this massive wall that is so hard to break. At least in Masters, when your attack gets negated, you don't have to worry about comboing or, dumping cards and hoping you can get over it, or maybe he doesn't have it. Against Vegeta, not only do you have access to all of these amazing one-drop events that, give you a bunch of power and also do other great things, you also, have all of your other cards you could be comboing. And he's just such a massive brick wall you're just banging your head into, and it's so difficult to get through, and it's just not fun, right? He's going to sit there and basically survive against you until you run out of resources and then slowly kill you afterwards. So he has all these great one-drop events. You have Death Ball, plus 15, and then rest of 3 or less. This is great. This stops a bunch of aggression. You have this new card from FPO 7, plus 15, and then just floodgate your opponent's big cards. That's kind of insane. It is cost 5 or more, so it's only really useful into stuff that's playing big cards or stuff that focuses on 5 costs. So it's definitely like a green silver bullet. If green's playing a bunch of big cards, this really hurts. But still, it doesn't hurt to have. It's a very strong card, and just, one more tool in his arsenal, right? Results of training. This was printed for the objectively superior yellow Vegeta deck. But unfortunately, that deck probably doesn't even play this card. I don't play it in my list. And yellow Vegeta just snagged it right up. Said, plus 15, draw a card. I'll take that. Absolutely nuts. And then you have Time Rewind, which is plus 20 and restand one of your battle cards. I don't know who thought this was a good idea. It wasn't. This card is wildly overtuned. Plus 20, restand one of your blockers. It doesn't even have a cost limitation. You can restand something big that has blocker. This card is extremely strong. So with all these strong 1-cost events, you can do 2 of these per turn, or more if you leave up energy before you restand. In addition to that, you have the Hell Rakshasa from set 5, plus 25, and then rest anything in your opponent's battle area. This is also extremely powerful, not having a limit on when it can rest. Very strong, and another reason why this deck is so good at just being this unbreakable wall. In addition to that, we have the new support that it's getting, which makes me want to throw up in my mouth. When attacking, choose 2 battle cards in your opponent's battle area, switch into rest mode. Insane. I don't know why we thought we needed to give Vegeta more stalling power. Sure, let's let him rest my cards and still not swing into my life and stall me out for even longer. Genius card. Then end of your turn, if your leader is Vegeta and you have 2 or more active energy, you go to the top 5 and get an extra. Why? Not only does Vegeta have to be this unbreakable wall now he's going to be consistent. Adding any extra, if you have 2 energy at the end of your turn, which, spoiler alert, you will. Your leader does that for you. This card is egregious. I don't know why they thought this deck needs support, especially this kind of support. It's beyond me. I don't like this card. Unfortunately, we can't ban it because it's not out yet. And they're definitely not adding it, but man, I don't like this card. I'm not excited. And then the Vegeta blocker. Hey, look at that. A blocker you can restand with time rewind. Active battle. If your leader is Vegeta, rest a battle. Choose a battle card in your opponent's battle area, rest it, and then switch this to active mode. So you swing with it for 30, pay 1, restand it so it can block for you. Or swing at something else to clear their board and just restand it with time rewind on your opponent's turn. This slightly less egregious than that Goku, but I still am not excited. This would be cool if the deck wasn't already a stall machine. I would like this card a lot. But this, in context with everything else the deck does, I think is pretty yucky. And also Goku being a 430 is wildly egregious as well. So this is Yellow Vegeta is primed to be the new problem if they don't preemptively hit something about this deck during the bans to Cell and Boo. And I think that could lead to a format, a metagame that's even worse than the one we have now. At least with Cell and Boo, those decks are killing you in a few turns. If you're not playing Vegeta and you play into Vegeta, or even worse, if you're playing a Vegeta mirror match, you're not going home for a while. Hope you're comfy, bud. Your ass is in that seat for a hot minute. So I think, again, I don't really know what we could hit here, especially not without hurting other decks, right? Like hitting Results of Training could possibly hurt a deck that definitely does not need to be hurt in Yellow Diamond Vegeta. Now, I don't necessarily think it will, right? I don't think Diamond Vegeta really even wants to play this card. He needs help in other ways, but again, definitely we should probably hit Time Rewound. This card is wildly overtuned, and in combination with this new Vegeta, that's going to be a problem. And again, I don't know what to do without straight up killing the deck, but this is also probably an issue as well. But I've yapped for long enough. I've said my piece. It's been almost 40 minutes. Let me know what you guys think. Comment down below, and are you excited for the bans? Are you disappointed? Is your favorite deck gonna get hit? Are you excited to dominate the meta with Yellow Vegeta that they inevitably won't preemptively hit? I almost guarantee we won't see anything done to this deck, and it's gonna run rampant. But let me know what you think, and I will catch everybody in the next video. See you later, guys.